Here's an interesting one. All this Jonathan Kuminga stuff. You'll hear more about it later about what's going around the Warriors franchise. But specifically, what I want to talk about today is the Warriors are unwilling to trade Jonathan Kuminga. They see him as a potential all-star at the very least. Now, the Warriors loathe the idea of potentially trading Jonathan Kuminga. Sources tell Michael Grange of Sportsnet. We've also heard this from I'm forgetting, from The Athletic. The admission comes even after the reports that Jonathan Kuminga has lost faith in playing for Steve Kerr. Kuminga has a close relationship with the owner of the Warriors, Joe Lacob, with Grange describing any potential trade as a virtually no-go. Jonathan Kuminga is averaging 13 points and 4.5 rebounds this season. More specifically, Jonathan Kuminga this year as a starter for the Dubs. I'm pulling up the stats right here. Starter this season. I thought I had them ready, but I didn't. But Kuminga this season as a starter is averaging 15 points, 5.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists in 13 games. And he's been basically a starter over the last few games. And they're going to an Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga starting lineup as of late. So it's definitely interesting to see that ownership is kind of like telling Steve Kerr, maybe even Mike Dunleavy, Jonathan Kuminga is my guy forever, here and now. My eyes itchy. But what are your guys' thoughts? Would you guys trade Jonathan Kuminga? So last offseason, we heard that they were offering, what was it, the pick that they ended up drafting Brandon Beepod with. They were offering that pick with Jonathan Kuminga to the Pistons. So it's definitely interesting to see that, potentially, they had already started or wanted to trade him in the past, and they ended up not going through with it. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comments section, and here's the rest of the reporting on this that we know about Jonathan Kuminga. Both Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody are frustrated with their roles and basically their development and opportunities with the Golden State Warriors, aka the Golden State Warriors 2 timelines. The Golden State Warriors youth movement might be dead. I'm literally watching the Warriors struggle against the Detroit Pistons right now. No offense to them. And what we're hearing specifically is that, dude, it might not be all kumbaya over there. And this is a team that has championship aspirations. Maybe Draymond Green is a bit more frustrated, and maybe his frustration actually has some reason behind it. So Jonathan Kuminga has lost faith in playing for Steve Kerr. Maybe the minister himself, Mark Jackson's a better player development coach than Steve Kerr is. Jonathan Kuminga has lost faith in Steve Kerr. And I want to hear your thoughts down below. Do you think Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga are wrong for publicly saying this? Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Hit that like and subscribe. So Kuminga no longer believes he will reach his full potential playing for Steve Kerr, according to Shams Charania of The Athletic. Kuminga sat the final 18 minutes of the Golden State Warriors loss to the Denver Nuggets on Thursday, and that was allegedly the straw that broke the camel's back. Kuminga had 16 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists in 19 minutes. Kerr said of Kuminga after the game, he was playing great. His normal time to go back in would have been the 5-6 mark. And Wiggins was playing great. We were rolling up 18, 19, whatever it was. So we just stayed with him. And then at that later point, it didn't feel like the right thing to do. He had been sitting for a while. So I just stayed with the group that was out there. Obviously, we couldn't close it out. End quote. Kuminga was the number 7 pick in the 2021 draft and has played better this season with more minutes. And Jonathan Kuminga is a guy that so far this season he's averaged a career high 12.8 points, 22 minutes a night, 4 rebounds, 1.5 assists a game. And he's a guy that at this point, what does Jonathan Kuminga bring you to the table? I mean, he's a solid basketball player and a guy that I thoroughly enjoy watching. What he brings you is a little bit of pop. He can play both. He's a combo forward. He's tried better defensively, but it's like Kuminga hasn't come with the grips with the fact that he, at times hasn't put himself in a position to be, a top guy. So that's where I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below on Jonathan Kuminga. What do you guys think? And we heard Moses Moody also not happy with his role, that he's frustrated with the lack of consistency and lack of a role, even though he's played more times in the playoffs than freaking Jonathan Kuminga has. And Moody's played 18 minutes a night, 8.5 points, 3.5 rebounds, and assists a night while shooting 47.7% from the field and 33% from three for the season. And Moody at this point, he's a bucket getter. So for me, I've always enjoyed what he's been able to do. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this situation. It has not been pretty if you're a Golden State Warriors fan. All right. The Golden State Warriors are trying not to have a repeat of last year. The Warriors, if you guys want to hear, are the 18th ranked defense, 13th ranked offense. They have the 18th net rating. They're 13th in 3-point percentage, 5th in 3 points made, 4th in 3-point attempts. And they're the second best rebounding team in the league, 6th best in assists. But the thing is they have no rim protection, and they're turning the ball over like crazy. And whenever they play a team with someone like a big, like how we saw with like Chet Holmgren, it's bad. They don't have any size. They lack a rim protector. And they're a foul team. They're fouling a lot. They have a bunch of fouls. And the thing with this team is that they foul at all costs approach creates an opposite, approach. Now it's not been great. So we saw with the Warriors on Friday's game, they controlled the majority of it, and Steve Kerr stood firm in his belief that this established starting line, which entered the night as a cumulative minus 25 net rating, or box minus plus score, you would say, would correct itself, and it did. Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins looked like they were hitting jumpers, and the Warriors have a habit of letting opponents linger in games instead of going in for the kill early, one might say. And that's definitely something that has been a problem. Hopefully that wasn't too loud for you guys. But yeah, it has been a problem with this team. And the Warriors also have a turnovering problem. They turned the ball over 29 times. That's the most ever in a Steve Kerr era, and the most for the franchise since the 30 turnover night back in 2002. So they've had an obscene amount of turnovers. And Andrew Wiggins turned it over 6 times. Green had 4. Thompson had 4. Steph Curry had 3. Kuminga had 3. Saric had 3. Brandon Podziemski had 2. Moody had 2. Kevon Looney had 1. And there was 1 team turnover as a shot clock violation. So there were passes, leading to nowhere. They had illegal screens. It's just messy. They had mindless moments in transition and were giving up possessions after possessions. And it's just these weird blunders that allowed the Thunder to come back. And it's weird, because if you go back to the end of the Sacramento meltdown 10 days ago, the Warriors were up, and they're blowing leads. They don't have the defense to stop it. But it's not even that. Even if they have the defense, they're just giving so many possessions. It's after, even if your opponent's playing like crap, if you keep giving them second chance opportunities or more and more possessions, they're gonna have a chance to come back. And Klay Thompson, who's had 22 points on 15 shots. It was his 5th 20-point night in the last 8 games. He's starting to get his jumper back, and it's weird, because this isn't an ideal situation for any of the teams involved. So for me, when I look at this, I think, okay, what are they going to do? How are they going to do it? Because without, they've collapsed to Thunder, Kings, Clippers, and Thunder again. So those are 4 games. They could be 14-8 instead of 10-12. And Barkley said the Warriors cooked a few times early this season, and that I think it's definitely interesting to see how this team, I think the lack of size is big, but there's no bigs out there that they can go out and get. They're kind of handicapped. Basically, if they're going to make a move, the Warriors, let's realistically talk about this. We look at the Warriors' salary, and we look at the trade candidates, okay? If we go back to all the guys who could be traded, the Warriors aren't trading Klay. They aren't trading Steph. They're not going to trade Paul, because Paul's actually been good for them. They can't trade Wiggins. They can't trade Green. They're not going to trade Gary Payton. They're not going to trade Kevon Looney. So that's like 7 dudes they're not going to trade. Nor are they going to trade B-Pod. So You know, Pod's not going anywhere. So that's 8 dudes they're not going to trade. So Kuminga mixed with Moody is about 9.9. And they're not going to trade Saric. That's 9 dudes. And they're not going to trade, you know, Guy Santos or Trace Jackson Davis. So really the only 3 dudes they're trading of is Moody, Podziemski, and Corey Joseph. All right. If we sit here and like package those 3 dudes, you're not going to, we're really not going to have the world's most money to work with. It's like $11 million they're going to have. And that's where it becomes hard to see like who they could go after, because they need a big. And I don't see like a Spencer Dinwiddie, Royce O'Neal, or, you know, Dorian Finney-Smith being an answer. And the bigs around the league, like all the good ones are kind of being kept. Like Rashawn Holmes, guys, not gonna, you need a rim protecting big. And it's not like somebody on the, you know, on the freaking Pistons is going to help them. They have a bunch of bigs, but none of those guys are really going to do anything. And if you look around the league, I mean, Bismack Biyombo would have been a great signing. He's not available anymore. And for like $10 million, I mean, there's technically Daniel Gafford that they could talk about. There could be a guy, you know, maybe someone off of the Orlando Magic. And that's what we'll talk about right here, because I don't see any. Maybe if they want somebody off the Spurs, but then the Spurs realistically, yeah, that might be your best option. So let's go over the Spurs real quick. The Spurs, if you wanted, okay, big wise, who could you take? Who's a big? Charles Bassey would be a great big. He makes 2.6. Okay, and to do this deal, I also think that like they would want to walk away. The thing is Jetty Osman's not moving the needle for me, nor is Devontae Graham. And Doug McDermott's just another shooter. He would be cool. But a big old deal that like I would really like is, and I know this is just them going out and kind of maybe being lateral about this, but if they can go out and get themselves guys that they know that'll fit their system, and it's risky, but if you send, let's, for example, okay, we're gonna go over here and we'll send Jonathan Kuminga's probably best fit would be with the Raptors. Moody seems like a Spurs guy, and you send Corey Joseph to the Spurs. I think money-wise, you would be able to do this deal. Yeah, this deal would work monetarily, and it's pretty, everybody kind of stays the same. Nothing insane, in my opinion, right here, where you look at this deal, where nobody's outright like winning crazy. But what do you guys think of this one? It's on the screen now. So Otto Porter and Charles Bassey to the Warriors, Moses Moody and Corey Joseph to the Spurs, and then Jonathan Kuminga. Now I think like we're overvaluing Bassey right here. Like I think some picks would have to go to the Warriors, like second rounders at least, for what they're giving up. But like in theory, yeah, I think the Raptors would have to give up like several second rounders. So would the Spurs. But in theory, this isn't a terrible trade. So what are your guys' thoughts there? What would you guys do? What is wrong with the Warriors, and how would you fix them? But yeah, that's the video for today, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy.